A lot of times we don't want to admit that we have insecurities. That's a touchy subject for us. So I feel like being insecure, you don't know how to be by yourself. You have to have attention from somebody else. You crave certain things. So dig into yourself, find yourself. Once you find your identity and within God, you will build a new confidence that no one can tell you anything. And when you see a red flag, you're like, nope, I'm good. Or you see something that just doesn't sit well with you. Letting go is the hardest thing because you can even let go and then it'll be certain things that you miss, even though it's toxic, but you kind of get used to it. It becomes your new normal.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Empower716, the podcast dedicated to business owners and entrepreneurs in Western New York. I'm your host, Rob Lowry, and today we're going to highlight another entrepreneur that is making an impact in our community. And today we have a special guest joining us, author Jada Ivey, who is here to share her personal journey to discuss her new book, which is called God Never Left Me. That's just in itself compelling. I want to know more, right? So Jada's book is deeply personal, an inspiring account of her experience dealing with narcissistic abuse and how faith, resilience, and self-discovery led her to healing. So I'm excited to dive into her journey. And so welcome to the show.
Hi, my name is Jada Ivey. I am the author of God Never Left Me. Thank you for watching Empower716. I was born here in Buffalo, New York, born and raised. I come from a big family of 6. I have 4 brothers and a twin sister. We were raised in a Christian home. That's pretty much where this started from. But, as you get older, you kind of stare off and do your own thing because not that you're forced, but you want to make your own decisions. You want to see what's out there. So, well, currently I'm a hairstylist at Touch of Paris Salon, and we are moving locations and everything. We're doing big cleanup and restarting everything. So we're excited. That's actually going to be on the 1st of March.
So let's talk about this book. I want to hear your journey and how you even got to put it in words, put it in writing. Kind of walk us through that process.
When you're in an abusive relationship or dealing with a narcissist, it's so much that you start to have like memory loss. So I suffered from a lot, and stepping away from that and leaving it and building a relationship with God, I had to heal. So when you're healing, you have to know exactly what you need to heal from. So it's like, I'm like, okay, God, what is it that I'm forgetting, or, anything of that nature? And it was like everything just like flooded me, and it was crazy. It's a lot, but to get it into words, it took some time. Because even talking about it, or like for some reason after I left this situation, going back into doing hair and stuff, because I was in Atlanta, I moved back, going back into doing hair, my clients just started sharing so much with me, and they didn't know that I was going through this because I didn't share, but I knew it was God.
Wow.
And so we shared like vulnerable moments, and it still like shakes me up, not in a bad way, but I'm just proud that I was able to get over that hump, But when that started to happen, I was able to open up, and it started to release some things because I seen how I was able to help other women. And women, we're all about looks and things like that. So it's like when you see a beautiful woman going through this, it's like, okay, it's not just us, it's everyone. Anyone can go through this, Once I started to like open up and talk about it, I just was sitting there one day and I was doing some research on digital marketing, and it was supposed to happen because God allowed it to, but I was doing some research on digital marketing and I was getting ready to write a book. And for some reason, it was just like, nope, you need to write a book about what happened to you.
Wow.
And I sat in the kitchen for 6 hours and I cried the whole time. And I was just typing away, just typing. And I would take like a 2-second break because I felt like I was healing. Like it was a spiritual thing for me, And I was just like, okay, God, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm just going to keep. And I was just so focused, super focused. And I just had the iPad up there and I just kept going, erasing, kept going and trying to fix things. And I was done.
So I want to talk about these topics because they're a little personal.
Yeah.
And, we talk about survival, we talk about spiritual strength, and then we talk about narcissistic abuse. And just in your own words, like how do you define narcissistic abuse?
For me, it is about physical action, but it's so much more spiritual. I learned so much from it. So I'm not like, there was a point in time where I battled myself trying to figure out what did I do to deserve this? Why did I go through this? But honestly, who I am today now, like it has so much to do with that.
Wow.
Narcissistic abuse on a physical side is a person that is very manipulative, no matter what. They're also in survival mode. They don't care what they have to do to get it. It's like dealing with a person that has a mask on. You don't really know who they are. So they try to figure out who you are so they can mirror you. So you're like, oh, I like basketball. They're like, oh, I like basketball too. Oh, I love children. I want to have one more child. Oh, I love children. I want to have a child too. So it's like a mirror effect. So they get to know who you are. And then once they start finding out your weaknesses, say if you have issues with your weight or something, when you guys get into a more vulnerable moment, they will start picking at that. Like, oh, you're gaining a little bit too much weight, or I'm not attracted to you. And it'll start to bring your self-esteem down.
Wow.
So that's really what they poke at, is your self-esteem, until you don't want to be bothered with anybody anymore. You don't want to, they try to get you by yourself. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I didn't realize until way after. I was like, he literally got me by myself. Like moved from where my family was to where I had nobody.
What was the next step of like, what made you want to help other people through this journey?
It was just a horrible experience. I definitely don't want to see anyone else going through it. I don't want them trapped in that bondage, know? And like I said, it's not just a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing. And a lot of people don't understand the spiritual side. Yeah. And that is what helped me get from it. It's so hard to walk away because it's almost like you're under a spell. Like literally, it's almost like you're under a spell. And it's so hard to get away from. So me sharing this, it was so important because it's going to help.
So what advice would you give to those who may be suffering, maybe in a similar situation, but especially when it comes to identity? Like what would you recommend for that individual?
Well, I would definitely say they need to find themselves first. A lot of times we don't want to admit that we have insecurities. That's a touchy subject for us. So I feel like being insecure, you don't know how to be by yourself. You have to have attention from somebody else. You crave certain things. So dig into yourself, find yourself. Once you find your identity and within God, you will build a new confidence that no one can tell you anything. And when you see a red flag, you're like, nope, I'm good. Or you see something that just doesn't sit well with you. Like peace to me is so big. Like with friendships, relationships, business, anything. Like I'm a very forgiving person, and that was something that I learned too. It's like you can forgive people. You don't have to continue to let them around to keep doing the same thing to you. You have to watch people from a distance. And if they actually changed, then you can allow them to come back around. But if they haven't changed, then leave them where they are and you pray for them.
So I want to talk about healing, because I want you to maybe shed some light for those who may be thinking about going through the healing process and the benefits of actually going through the process and the suffering that happens through the healing process, because it is not easy. It's not just saying about getting healed.
I feel like even during the relationship, there was times where I'm like, okay, I need to leave this relationship before I completely go insane. Yeah. I need to leave so that I can heal. And it wasn't just me, it was my kids too. There would be times where I literally will book a flight, pack all my stuff up, and I wouldn't leave. I wouldn't go nowhere. I ended up just canceling. Wow. The healing process is so hard, but the support that I had once I did open up with my sisters and my close friends, it was simple things that they would say to me, like, you're beautiful, you deserve so much better. And it's like, once I started to realize, like, I do deserve better. And they kept telling me that and kept telling me and having these talks messed with me. And I don't know, it just started to click. And I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. Letting go is the hardest thing because you can even let go and then it'll be certain things that you miss, even though it's toxic. But you kind of get used to it. It becomes your new normal. And that's how I was. It became my new normal. And I had to just pray on it. I remember the one day I got on my knees and I was like, God, I'm not praying for you to change this man. I'm praying that if you don't want him in my life and he's not meant to be and this is not according to your will, you remove him. However you do it, it's none of my business. And literally 2 days later, he was gone.
Why was it important for you to because your writing style is very direct, and I think that it will reach the audience that you probably will connect more with. And I like the fact that it wasn't, and I don't mean this like an elitist way or a looking down way, but I think there are languages to reach a certain audience.
Yes, that's exactly when it was like simple instructions from God. So he wanted me to write it as if I was just chilling, having a conversation with some friends, you know, like, hey, this is what I went through, you know, and I was being vulnerable, you know. It wasn't like, I didn't want to sound like a preacher. I didn't want to sound like someone using these big words and people get turned off. I just want it to be direct and still for people to read it and like, oh, okay, I feel like I kind of know her. You know, it was a little sassiness to it and that's just who I am. You know,
I like it. When I was reading it drew me in because again, sometimes when you read a lot of books, sometimes it could be very like marketing. It could be very too professional. And I was able to connect right away and it wasn't like overwhelming of terms of like, oh, like, do I got to do this or do I got to do? So that's why I appreciate it when I was reading it. I was like, oh, this will connect to individuals who are really experiencing this in a different way. Because again, like everybody's not going to look at it and read the King James version and understand it. And they feel like I have no connection. This is not relatable.
Right. Everybody was shocked. I haven't got one bad review, honestly. The first person that I let read was my friend Tamika. Okay. And she's not a really big reader. So I was like, okay, I need somebody that if I can get her attention, then I'm good. So I sent her the book and it was that night. And she was like, she texted me back maybe an hour later and she's like, oh my God.
Wow.
She was like, I'm going to be honest. She said, I was only going to read a couple pages and then read the rest throughout this week or however she's going to do it. But she's like, girl, I could not take my eyes off of it.
Wow.
She was like, I was crying, I was sad, I was mad, and then I was happy. She said, I didn't even know that you went through all of this, but I'm so happy that you made it out. And I feel like that was almost the reaction of everyone. Everyone, even my sister, she was like, it was such a good book. She said, I didn't know. Even my mom, my brothers, they're like, you're so good at keeping secrets because we didn't know. Honestly, a lot of females have been through stuff like this, but don't understand certain things. So now it's just like when you have somebody kind of going more into detail about those ways that they were feeling or why did they think this or even down to the smallest things of, like I said, I felt like I was under a spell and they're like, oh my God, like I felt the same way too, you know? But it was just like more confirming for them. Like, okay, that confirmed how I felt. I knew I wasn't going crazy. Or a lot of people haven't came out and told anybody. So I feel like this is like a push, like, okay, share your story. This is my testimony. And I feel like a lot of people, not a lot, but some women do share their story and they get shut down.
Very true. So now that the book is out, you see the fruits of your labor. What do you think? Where do you think God is leading you next?
Honestly, I hope that I get invited on more podcasts. I hope that I get invited to join, groups and workshops to share my story, to help other women, get through the same thing.
I love that. And I think, I want to encourage you to really, and I know that this is kind of like is this your first podcast you've been on? Okay. So, this is exciting. So thanks for feeling safe to come to share your story. But I encourage you to build your community. I know that you're already doing that, but I think more individuals, I would say suffer in silence. And
I did for a long time.
Yeah. And I think your transparency will help take some of those barriers down in people's life. And so I kind of put this out in the atmosphere that I think that you're going to, the words that you've written in this book will inspire so many more women and men too. Because I think seeing the impact that some people may not be self-aware too.
Yeah.
I think
so with the men, the reactions that I got from them, they were shocked with more of the spiritual side. Yeah. Because we see sometimes to people being in a physical relationship or abusive relationship is kind of normal. Yeah. But to see how the spiritual side plays out, it's not a joke, So they had so many questions. Yeah. Yeah, I think, like I said, I think that there's so many things, and I'll be very honest, things that in relationships, until you go through certain things, I had to research certain behaviors. And when I started pointing out within the relationship what that person was doing, it went back to me. Yeah. Because even with the terminology narcissist, you say, oh, a person is narcissist or this person is this. And what God had to do with me is point it back to me and what I was doing and my behavior. And the only person I can hold accountable is myself. Yes. And I started to become more self-aware of how I reacted, how I responded, how I communicated. Yes. And then it goes back to the identity. Like, who are you? Right. And who did God create you to be? That's so funny that you said that, because when I was on my way here, I was praying and I was talking to God about certain things because I feel like sometimes when we pray, we like to point the fingers at other people. Yeah. But I'm like, God, work on me, clean my heart out. Yeah. Like, I know I'm not perfect. I know I still have my attitude to work on. I still have my reactions to work on. Like, it's things that I still need to work on. So I don't want to always point the finger at somebody else and then I'm just still here like I'm just perfect. Like, no, I still have things to work on too. We all do. Yes. We all do. So the book is available on Amazon. I will be ordering some, like a bulk, to have it at the shop, so that if they want to come by and grab one, or it's on Amazon. Well, thank you very much for stepping in and sharing your testimony. Like I said, I know it is going to save so many souls. And it's needed. It's needed in this day and age to talk about the things that we experience in our relationship, both from ourselves or our partner, and to share those with others, to build a community. And that's what Empower716 is all about. So we thank you for listening to this episode.